so starting off with the history we witnessed in the W on Sunday, and who better to talk about that than our girl, Monica McNutt. So, Monica, let's head up to the land of 10,000 lakes in Minnesota, where Lynx guard Kayla McBride set the WNBA single-game record for three-pointers by going 10 of 14 from behind the arc in the Lynx 103-90 win over the Dallas Wings. McBride finished with 43 points in 32 minutes, a career high for her and the third most in franchise history. So just a preposterous shooting display from the five-time WNBA All-Star. Monica, what impressed you the most about what you saw from Kayla McBride on Sunday?
I mean, obviously, Courtney, she hit the shots. It was a shooter's paradise, if you will. But I think a lot of that is a byproduct of how good this Minnesota Lynx squad is. And they did a fantastic job of finding her. She continued to catch the ball in rhythm, and that shot is so pure. But Kayla McBride has been a terrific shooter in this league for a very, very long time. And this year is really enjoying the spoils of the riches in terms of how good this Minnesota Lynx team is all around. But I just really, really love that she got to have this moment and really get the shine I think she deserves as a terrific veteran in this league.
And this is a team that has been on a tear this season, so much so without their star and their captain in Nafisa Collier. She comes back, and they still have the best record in the W. But another player I want to drill down on here, Monica, in the midst of her own breakout season, is Olivia Miles. So we know at this point, shoo-in for Rookie of the Year, has the second shortest odds in the MVP race, according to DraftKings. So behind A'ja Wilson, there's the rookie. Rookies don't typically win this. So how do you view the MVP race at this point and size up where Miles fits into that?
You know, Courtney, this one has really been causing me to lose a little bit of sleep as of lately. Now, right now, if I had to give the award out today, I'd give it to A'ja Wilson. She is the best all-around player in the league, averaging 26 and 9 this year. And the Aces are right there in terms of this overall title hunt. But for those of you that subscribe to the mindset of best player on best team, Olivia Miles absolutely has a case to win this award. I mean, even though we're talking about the Kayla McBride of it all in the weekend's contest, she also had 13 assists, I believe, in that one, and is setting records of her own as a terrific point guard, dishing the rock to a number of her teammates. Now, in Miles' case, I think there's a conversation about value and player ability on both sides of the floor. And A'ja Wilson, of course, in this conversation is more of a dominant defensive presence, although Miles has held her own in a way that I don't know that folks anticipated her to do on the defensive side of the basketball coming out of college.
So the Lynx are 22-7 right now. They're looking to get back to the WNBA Finals. They haven't been there in 2 years. If you're sizing up what this looks like to pick your champion, are you taking the Lynx or are you going the field, Monica?
I still got to go the field, Courtney, and let me explain why. The Lynx, I do believe right now, are probably about a shoulder's length ahead of the rest of the pack. But when I look at the field, it's not just the Aces that I think could potentially upset the overall mission for the Lynx, right? This Valkyrie squad has the best defense in the league. The Atlanta Dream are getting healthier, and they can attack you in a number of ways, and they've got terrific size as well. Of course, there's the Fever and their potent offense, and the Liberty also have veterans that have been to the mountaintop, and if they can put it together, what does a postseason run? The other wrinkle, Courtney, that I think is important to note this year is when the WNBA takes the Fever break in September for about a 2-week stretch, there are teams who have different amounts of players who will have commitments. For example, the Aces, their entire big three is going to play. For the Liberty, you've got Caitlin Clark that is going to go play, or excuse me, for the Fever, you've got Brianna Stewart for the Liberty. And when you look at the Lynx, it's just going to be Nafisa Collier, who you could argue is going to use that time to get back to her full self. So we'll see. I think there's a lot happening in the WNBA this year. It's a really great time to love the game.
And a lot clearly happening wherever you are. I hear the phone ring, and there must be somebody's calling Monica because they need her right now. But I need you here because we've got to talk about the other big story in the WNBA from over the weekend. So this happened on Saturday during the Indiana Fever's 90-86 win over the Chicago Sky. Sky 2 guard DiJonai Carrington was assessed a flagrant 2 and ejected after a hard foul across the face and neck area of the Fever's Sophie Cunningham in the first quarter. And a lot we know happened in the aftermath here. Cunningham called the foul, quote, unnecessary. She said post-game that she doesn't have any beef with Carrington. Fever head coach Stephanie White said, quote, I don't oppose the hard foul, but I also don't think that she intentionally went for the neck. And Carrington, once she got ejected, posted 2 messages on social media, writing, quote, white privilege at Indiana Fever on her Threads account, and then tweeting the date 8/23, which references the next time that the Sky and the Fever will meet. So, Monica, this hard foul controversy has a lot of layers to it, and it's created a lot of discourse around the WNBA. I want to stick to what happened on this play itself. What was your reaction to the foul and how it was handled?
I thought that it was handled appropriately, Courtney. It was a hard play. It was a flagrant 2. It cost DiJonai Carrington the rest of the ballgame, which was unfortunate because she was rolling. She was playing terrific ball at this point in the ballgame. Now, mind you, the Chicago Sky are a team that's trying to build and find themselves. So this would have been an incredible opportunity if they were able to keep her on the floor and keep this game close. Now, I will also add to this. When you look at her track record as a player who was a 2024 first team defensive selection, she has successfully made these chase down plays previously in her career, which is why Stephanie White said post-game that DiJonai Carrington is always going to defend those sort of open layups and plays. In this particular moment, the play was unsuccessful. It was adjudicated appropriately within the parameters of the game, and unfortunately for her, it cost her the rest of the ballgame.
I'm glad that you brought that part up because I know in WNBA Countdown yesterday, you, Shanae Agumake, Andrea Carter specifically bringing up how she plays the game as a defender. She's one of the best defensive players in the league that we've seen over her career. But the foul itself, in the moment, it was the right call. I think we can all look at that and say what happened there was necessary. But everything then afterwards makes me wonder about the discourse around the W in its 30th season and the commissioner's response, or really lack thereof. Because we know in 2027, the news that she dropped at WNBA All-Star Game is that there's going to be a command center that's going to help with the officiating, because the officiating has been such a hot topic this season, whether it's uniform, whether it's routine, whether fouls are called the right way for some players versus others. As it pertains to Kathy Engelbert here, though, she's been the subject of controversy in her own right, from CBA negotiations to what's happening this season. Do you think the commissioner needs to respond to these sorts of things so the conversation doesn't fester and get out of control where it's something other than basketball, Monica?
Heard Cheryl Miller say over the weekend, and she obviously is a Hall of Famer, but her sentiment overall was that it's important that the game continue to be protected and that folks that are using the game for their own personal narratives, that noise needs to be set aside. Now, to go all the way back to your question, this particular play to me was a hard basketball play. Now, there is obviously more of a conversation because of what was posted to social media. I personally do not agree with the post from DiJonai Carrington. However, I have not walked in her shoes in terms of experiencing the culture surrounding some of the plays that happen in the league right now. I can speak to personally what shows up on my social, but I can't necessarily speak to DiJonai's personally. Now, I did think in this instance, that was not the issue in this ball game. It was a play gone awry. It happens in the nature of competition. As far as Kathy Engelbert is concerned, I applaud her for the way that she has helped to grow the league. But have there absolutely been blind spots that need to be addressed? Yes. Overall, improving officiating across the league for both the player, coach, and fan experience is a plus. This particular situation, in my mind, is not why we need to be ringing alarm bells. Competition for men and women is a emotional experience. DiJonai Carrington has a track record of successfully making these plays. In this instance, she did not. The officials handled it quickly. I think we should be moving on.
Yeah, and we can move on with it. Obviously, there is something to be said about the other foul in this game that was later rescinded. That was Caitlin Clark. She was assessed her 8th technical foul. The Fever appeal it very quickly. That ruling gets overturned. She won't be suspended. She won't face a fine. But naturally, the conversation has become something that's other than basketball by certain parts of fan bases, whether you're a W fan or not. But it is something that was a part of a big weekend here in the W. But there is something else I want to get to, because you mentioned the Aces as a team that you're looking at as a favorite to win the title once again. On Sunday, they rested 3 of their starters, headlined by Asia Wilson. Highly anticipated matchup here against the Liberty. So Liberty go on to blow out Vegas by 40. And Becky Hammon explained her decision to rest her stars after the game.
My players' health is the most important. So I don't care what CGR, you got to be healthy and fresh as much as possible, obviously, after going through a season. So the health and safety of the players come first. Wherever we end up, and we'll, play whatever hand is dealt to us. But, to me, this was just a bigger picture type scenario. So, you know, you take the L, understanding that, you know, it pays dividends on the back end.
So this was on the back end of a back-to-back. The Aces also lost on Saturday. She also went on to say that every team has a brutal schedule. She doesn't think that they do less than a 24-hour turnaround in the NBA like the NBA does. So, Monica, do you think that Becky Hammon has a point here about her strategy, why she did it, but also the bigger picture here with scheduling in the W?
I do think she has a point, Courtney. And of course, those of us that cover and follow basketball know she's a descendant of the Greg Popovich tree, if you will, as far as coaching goes. And he was someone who fiercely protected the players' safety of his players, obviously. And so I do also think it's important to note that I find this moment to be a little bit of a growing pain. I think the league would look back at the way that these games were scheduled in Minnesota and New York in the afternoon and agree that they should look to do better. We're going from currently a 44-game season, which has grown from 40. In 2027, the season will be 50 games. Of course, there are new and additional partners broadcasting games. So there are a lot of people that have to get pleased in this one. And it is important, to Becky Hammon's point, not to lose sight of the players' safety of it all. But I chalk this one up to a growing pain. And as a fan, I certainly can feel for those fans of Brooklyn that were hoping to see a battle of the clashes, or a clash of the Titans, if you will, at full strength. But I do think and respect Becky Hammon's decision. Mind you, she's won 3 championships in this league. And last year in particular, when her team flipped a switch after All-Star break, she is in tune with them in terms of helping them to max out to achieve their ultimate goals. And so I don't have an issue with this in terms of playing the long game. I do think as this league continues to grow, we really haven't dealt with this idea of load management in the WNBA as prolific as it has been on the NBA side. So I'm curious to see how all parties work together as the league continues to grow.
Yeah, that game on Saturday was 12 p.m. The next day, they play again in that afternoon, noon spot. So something to be said about the quick turnaround, and if that is something that the W can fix going forward. Monica, as always, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here.